And he made himself down to the USS New York. Don, thanks so much for coming.
It's great to be here.
Good morning. Good to have you.
Good morning.
Hey, so what'd you make? We saw it unfold live on TV yesterday.
Yep.
We saw Nancy Pelosi going into her meeting at 9 o'clock in the morning where they were going to talk about impeaching your dad. Then a little later on, she came out and she said he is obstructing justice and he's involved in a cover-up. Yeah. Then he heard that. When they came over, he said, meeting's over. I'm not going to talk to you about infrastructure because unless you end these phony investigations.
Well, the reality is the Democrats, they're not dealing in good faith. We know that, right? First, it was collusion. That failed miserably. Then it was obstruction. Now the newest soundbite is it's a cover-up. Well, if there was none of the other things, what exactly are you covering up? I mean, they're upset that he's upset that they perpetrated the greatest hoax on the American people in the history of this country. And so you can't deal with someone like that. You can't say, well, we're going to deal with infrastructure, but meanwhile, we're impeaching you while this is going on. They don't want that because the Democrats don't want to get anything done. They see his track record of success, win after win. Trevor Noah the other day said he's actually doing the things he said he was going to do.
Right.
The fact that that's uncommon with American politicians should tell us all we need to know. They don't want him to rack up more wins because
they don't want
Democratic
him to rack up any wins.
Any wins, because the Democratic frontrunners are out there. Government has failed you. I go, Joe Biden, you've been doing this for 50 years. So government, you're right. Government has failed you. That's your failure. That's your record. So, it's really disingenuous. It's sad to see it. And I'd love to see him do that. I'd love to see him work on infrastructure because he's a builder. That's what he does better than anything. He'll get it done, and he's fixing this country. But they don't want him to do that because they don't want people from the outside. They don't want Republicans. They don't want conservative values being what puts America back at the top.
Nancy Pelosi said that it could be an impeachable offense. She doubled down last night, said she was praying for your dad. Watch this.
This president is obstructing justice, and he's engaged in a cover-up. And that could be an impeachable offense. Ignoring the subpoenas of Congress was Article 3 of the Nixon impeachment.
She goes on to say, I pray for the president. And the president tweeted, he said, thanks. I know you truly mean it.
Well, listen, I don't think the party of infanticide is exactly praying for anyone. That's not what they do. We get that. It's just a consummate attack on American values, on democracy. Honestly, this election, 2020, it's about communism versus freedom. You can choose. That's the great thing about our system. But that's what it is. They want to attack anything that has to do with free markets, anything that has to do with freedom. They need government control because that's all they are.
Communism or socialism?
Honestly, at this point, it feels like it's going beyond, right? It's just the stepping stones. We've seen this system fail time and time again. No different than Joe Biden saying government's failed you. Meanwhile, he's been doing it for 50 years. Right. It's like socialism's going to work this time.
Don,
it's failed 1,000 times. It's killed hundreds of millions of people. But this time it's going to work. It's nonsense.
So 2 weeks ago, the Senate Intelligence Committee, which is Senator Burr is the chairman, said, we want to speak to Don Jr. again. Originally, there was pushback. A couple of days later, Don's going to come in and testify. What went into that decision? What was the deal struck?
Well, listen, I've always said I'm going to be reasonable. No one's spoken to these guys more than I have. I've done almost 30 hours of testimony about nonsense. Been fully cleared. By the way, the Mueller report cites my congressional testimony, cites my Senate testimony. It cites my Twitter feed. So the 19 leftist lawyers on that committee who would love nothing more than to get a guy like me and certainly my father didn't do anything. But these guys are going to do it. And you have one Republican who's too weak to stand up to the Democrats. He won't do it.
Which one?